So the question is range addition. Basically what it means is that you have an array of length, this length given, and let's say the length is 5 for us. So we have an array of length 5. You are given a range which is 1 to 3, and whatever is the element in the updates array on the index 2, that is the amount by which you have to increment all these elements from index 1 to 3. So when you perform the first operation, what is supposed to happen is that, let me write down the indexes. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. What is supposed to happen is that from index 1 to 3, you're supposed to increment every element by 2. So what does that become? It becomes 2, 2, that becomes 2, 2, 2, and then 0. When you perform the next operation, 2 to 4, increment by 3. So this remains 0, this remains whatever was the value before, and then on 2 you increment it by 3, so it becomes 5. This becomes 7. This becomes 5, and this becomes 3. Now you move on to the last operation. Here you want to subtract, so as an add, but it's a -2, so you're going to subtract. So this basically becomes -2, this becomes 0, and this becomes 3, and you have 5 and 3. So this is what your last result is supposed to be. This is what the output is supposed to be. The brute force way of doing this is obviously that you loop through the updates, and you already have this empty array created in the beginning itself, and then you get the indexes, because 1 to 3 are representing indexes. So you get the indexes, how much do you want to increment the value by, which is on the update, and then the second index. So you get that, and while you don't reach the end of the range, which is from, so you're starting from index 1, which is 1 in this case, and you will reach till the end of the index 3 included. So you loop from index 1 to index 3, and you keep incrementing whatever the value is in your array, results array itself, the final results array itself, and you return it. But the time complexity of this is going to be n into k, so because you're looping through all the operations. So if you have whatever amount of operations you have, updates you have, the range of that, and you will have to multiply it with the length of the array itself. So that would be n into k. The other way to solve it, which is a little tricky, is that what you do is, so if you're supposed to perform operation of incrementing values from 1 to 3 by 2, what you do is you go to index 1 and you increment it by 2. So you increment this value by 2, you keep the rest of the range same, you don't do anything there, and you go to the last element, the next element which lies after the range. So if you 1 2 3 is the range, you go to element 4 and you decrement the value by whatever value you are given here. Okay, and you keep doing this for all the operations, and in the end you're supposed to, the final result is supposed to be addition of all these elements in a way that you add. So for index 0, the value would be addition of index whatever value is at this index, as in array, whatever is the value at this index would be equal to array of I plus array of I minus 1. This is the formula for the results, end results. So basically, but since for a array on index 0 you don't have any element before it, so it will remain whatever it is, and for this one you will add these two values, so it would be 2 So the intuition behind this, if you notice, is that you added this values too. So this was the beginning range of this operation, right? And now if you see, rest of the elements were 0, but you, since you're adding them, adding the value of the element that came before it, you're basically adding whatever this was to the value on this index itself. So when you add these two elements, by default the operation of incrementing the element on index 2 by value 2 is happening here, because you're getting the value from here. So this is going to lead us, give us 2, and then whatever this value is, you add it here. So this plus 2 is basically getting, this is like a chain that we are forming, and this 2 is basically coming to all these indexes. And what happens when it reaches the end of the range, so this isn't supposed to have a 2, right? Because this was the end of the this is beyond the range that was given to us. So when you try to add the value that came from here to this one, because you already decremented it by that value, this will get nullified and you'll have 0 in the end, which is what is supposed to happen if you just perform this operation. So that is the idea, basically, that whatever operation, whatever range you have been given, go to the beginning, go to the first start index of that range, add that value, go to the last index of that range, and decrement the value by the area value by whatever was given, whatever the value was here. So let's try to code this out. We wouldn't have to loop through all of this. What we are going to do simply is that in my array itself, the results array itself, I will go to the results array. For index 1, I will increment the value by whatever I am supposed to increment it by. But for results, and first let me check if index 2 plus 1, it shouldn't be out of bounds, right? The second index, because if you see, this is the range for 2 to 4, but 4th is the last element. We don't want to increment the value by 5, and we cannot, it doesn't exist. So we just check the value that index 2 plus 1 should still be smaller than or equal to whatever is the length. Smaller than, if it is smaller than length, then you go to results, that index, plus 1. So basically we are going to the 4th index, and we are decrementing its value by whatever it was supposed to increment by. This is what we're going to do. In the end, what we have to do is we have to loop through the results array, int I equal to 0, I smaller than equal to length minus 1, and then I plus plus. We have to loop through the results array, and we have to update the values in a way that this becomes plus equal to results of the value from its previous value from the previous index. And now since we are doing I minus 1, we want to check that this is in the range. So if I is greater than 0, then only perform this, and then you just have to return the results. Let's see if this works. If I submitted. So this method is called range caching, and what we were doing before was that we were looping, right? We were looping through because we were going from the first index till the last index. So we were looping through it. So it became n into k, whatever the range was. But in this case, we are not doing that. We are directly performing a O of 1 operation because we are directly going to the index itself and performing increment or decrement, whatever we want to perform. And then we are looping through the array again. So this becomes n plus k because if the number of updates is k, and then you're looping through this results array one time. So now the solution is n plus k instead of a solution that was n into k.